Are you waiting for countries to open their borders back up to visitors? Or maybe you're waiting on a work visa? Then this video is just for you. Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a few ways that you can prepare yourself for expat life while you're waiting to move abroad. And many of these things are applicable as well if you're planning a vacation. If you're ready to get to the list, then give me a thumbs up below and let's get into it. The first thing on our list is going to be read books. And if you are a reader, then obviously you're really gonna like this one. Before I move to different countries, I like to get as many books as possible about the country that I'm moving to. And for some countries, that's gonna be easier than others, but even Angola, which is a lesser known, less popular country to move to, I still found 2 or 3 books about Angola before I moved there. And I bought them and started reading as soon as I learned we were moving to Angola. And I find that it really helps with kind of knowing what to expect and knowing what kind of cultural differences at least to expect when I arrive in my new country. And while it won't erase culture shock totally, it will definitely help kind of prepare you for a little bit of culture shock so you know what to expect when you get to your country. The next thing you can do to prepare for life overseas is going to be language training. So are you moving to a country where you don't speak the language? Well, definitely take this time where you're waiting for your work visa or you're waiting for country borders to open back up and try to learn some language basics of the country that you're moving to. I really cannot express enough, I've said this many times on this channel, how important it is to really try to learn at least a little bit of the language that you're moving to, because it will be really beneficial to you in just a day-to-day basis, whether you're at work, whether you're on the internet trying to set up your cell phone service, or if you're at the grocery store trying to buy some things. Knowing a few basic words, at least to a basic level of that foreign language, will really be beneficial to your expat life. So take this time that you have waiting on borders to open up or waiting for your work visa to try to learn some language basics. And then that way, when you move to your new country, it will be really helpful to you and you can hit the ground running. The next thing I think you should really focus on while you're waiting to move abroad is your mindset. And I highly suggest the book by Carol Dweck, Mindset. When you live abroad, you will inevitably face challenging times and you'll be frustrated with the way things are or aren't done in your new country. But if you've already done some work on your mindset before you've moved there, then those things won't feel as challenging and they won't feel as frustrating. So working on your mindset before you move abroad, I think is very crucial to having a successful expat assignment. Another thing you can do is research new areas to live in. Before you actually move abroad, it might be hard to know what neighborhoods you really want to live in, but really consider all your options and do as much research as possible. Here are a few things to consider when you're looking at neighborhoods in your new country. You want to think about, what do you want to live by? Do you want to live by schools? Do you want to live by green space? Do you want to live in a more tourist area of the city or more remote location of the city? You want to think about, what type of people do you want to live around? Is your neighborhood going to have younger families, or is it going to be an older population? What is the overall vibe of the neighborhood? Is it more of a going out type scene with lots of shops and restaurants, or is it a lot more quiet with maybe just a local playground and there's a lot of families that live there? Do you really want to be engrossed in a more historic type of apartment, or do you want to live in a more modern apartment that would really limit potentially the neighborhoods that you can live in your new location? And finally, really try to picture yourself day to day. Think about what you enjoy doing, whether it's going for a morning walk or whether it's walking your dog. Maybe you want to go have lunch at a cafe, you want to be close to restaurants, maybe you don't want to be close to restaurants. Really consider what you do on a daily basis and visually put yourself in that neighborhood and see if it's going to work for what you do day in and day out. The next thing you should do while waiting to move abroad is plan activities for once you get there. So now that you know what country you're going to and potentially what neighborhood you've narrowed it down to, you can really start to think about what activities that you want to do when you arrive, whether it's eating at a certain cafe or maybe it's going to a few museums. I would actually start a physical spreadsheet or list of all the things that you want to do when you arrive in your new country. Because believe it or not, there will be times, maybe a month after you get to your new country, where you're kind of sitting on the couch on a Saturday night, you don't know what to do. You can revert back to your list. Another aspect of this is also looking up travel that you can do in your new country. So I know before I moved to Argentina, I was already looking at travel that I wanted to do around Argentina and also just South America in general. And I created a spreadsheet where I put the location and why it interested me or what we could do there. And then also the amount of days that vacation would probably take. So whether it was just a weekend trip or a week-long trip or maybe an extended weekend trip. That way, when Andrew had a vacation, I could easily revert back to that list and see what we were interested in doing a few years ago before we moved there. And I also created an activity checklist for Buenos Aires and Luanda. So if you are thinking about moving to either of those locations, then definitely head down to the description box. I have a link where you can download them. And even if you're moving to a different location, I would say go ahead and still get the list. You can take that list and actually think about things in your other country. It might help jog some ideas that I thought about in Buenos Aires that are still applicable to Paris or Santiago. So definitely head below and check out those lists. Another thing to do while preparing is plan your packing. And obviously, what you pack in your suitcase or your shipment if you're moving with a company is going to be really important to your success living abroad. You're going to want to make sure to bring the right things that are good for you and your family living in your new country. So I actually created a YouTube video about this a few weeks ago. I'll link it up here and you guys can check that out to get some packing tips. Another thing you're going to want to do is spend as much time as possible with your friends and family while you are waiting to move abroad. With technology these days, it's definitely easier to maintain a relationship with folks back home, but it's just not going to be the same. When you live abroad, it's going to be really difficult to actually come back home on a regular basis to see friends and family. Of course, you will maybe once or twice a year, but it won't be very often. So you really want to soak up as much time with them as possible before you move abroad. All right, friends, the final and eighth thing that you should be doing while you're waiting to move overseas is get excited. If I can be this so freaking excited for you guys, complete strangers, then you must be so pumped for yourself that you have made the decision to move abroad and you have picked your country and you are now just waiting to go. You want to be sure to keep your excitement high and your interest high in these few months of waiting. And I know it can seem like it'll take forever to get your work visa and it might take several months, or it might seem like all hope is lost and the borders to whatever country you're looking at are never going to open up to visitors. But remember that this is a really special time between two different life chapters. So you really want to take this time and use it wisely to prepare yourself for your new life on the horizon. All right, friends, that is the 8 things that I think you should do before moving abroad or while you're waiting to move abroad. And I know the time where you're planning to move overseas and you're waiting to move overseas can be hectic and can feel like there's so many decisions to make, but it's also filled with so much excitement and anticipation. So really harness those feelings and keep that with you while you're waiting to move overseas. All right, friends, I will be back next week with another expat related video. Bye, guys.